The Florida sun blazed over Mar-a-Lago as President Trump took the podium, gold trim gleaming under TV lights. Surrounded by aides and press, he announced a steep new tariff, 25% on all Canadian copper. His tone was defiant, his message simple: protect American industry from what he called unfair Canadian practices. For too long, our great American companies have been taken advantage of, he declared, hands slicing the air. Canada has been flooding our market with cheap copper. It's killing our miners. We're putting a stop to it now. No charts, no data, just a direct appeal to national pride. The tariff was framed as a shield for American workers, a bold move to level the playing field. The announcement blindsided many, even within his own administration. Trade officials had been quietly negotiating minor issues with Canada, but this was a bombshell. Trump bypassed normal channels, acting first and leaving others to manage the fallout. The message: America first, old rules of diplomacy second. Announcing from his winter White House projected power and independence. He was a president of action, not bureaucracy. The tariff was more than policy. It was a political statement, a promise to his base in manufacturing and mining states. He positioned himself as their champion, fighting foreign forces he claimed were undermining their prosperity. The stage was set for a major trade conflict. The ornate ballroom, the defiant speech, the surprise, every detail was calculated for maximum impact. Trump drew a line in the sand, using copper as his weapon of choice. The move was classic Trump: bold, brash, and risky. The world watched, waiting for Canada's response. The tariff wasn't just about economics, it was about identity, pride, and political survival. The first shot in a new trade war had been fired. The consequences, intended and not, were about to unfold. The copper wall was up, the fallout was just beginning. Trump's copper tariff was pure America first. He saw trade as a zero-sum game. If Canada wins, America loses. Manufacturing job losses in the Rust Belt, he blamed unfair Canadian competition. The White House claimed Canadian copper was subsidized, sold cheap, and impossible for U.S. mines to match. The 25% tariff was meant to make American copper more attractive, boost production, and bring back jobs. The logic was simple: protect a key industry, spark a domino effect of economic growth. Higher prices for consumers? A small price for American revival, the administration argued. The tariff was also a bargaining chip, Trump's favorite tool to force other countries to the table. The target, Canada. The goal: pressure Ottawa into a better deal. The White House expected Canada to fold quickly. The gamble: that the U.S. held all the cards. The message to voters: Trump was fighting for them, no matter the cost. The administration believed disruption was worth it for a shot at economic resurgence. The copper tariff was a test of will, not just economics. The president was betting big on confrontation over compromise. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain. The next move belonged to Canada. Canada didn't blink. Instead of backing down, Ottawa hit back, fast and hard. Prime Minister Trudeau's government called the tariff an illegal attack and an insult from an ally. Within hours, Canadian officials were on TV promising swift retaliation. They crafted a targeted list of U.S. products for counter tariffs: Kentucky bourbon, Wisconsin cheese, Florida oranges, and more. The goal: maximum political pain for Trump's supporters. The counter tariffs matched the value of the copper trade, a clear message of reciprocity. Canada's response was widely supported at home, seen as defending national sovereignty. The message: if you punch, we punch back. The dispute was now a two-way trade war. Canada aimed to make the political cost unbearable for Trump. By targeting key states, they hoped to turn U.S. businesses and voters against the tariff. The maple leaf struck back, and the economic battle lines were drawn. The dynamic shifted, no longer a superpower dictating terms, but a real fight. The U.S. administration was forced to reconsider its assumptions. The trade war had escalated, and both sides braced for impact. The world watched as allies became adversaries overnight. Trouble started at home, not abroad. U.S. manufacturers who relied on Canadian copper faced soaring costs. The tariff was a shackle, not a shield. Companies making wiring, electronics, and appliances couldn't just switch suppliers. American mines couldn't fill the gap: wrong grades, not enough supply. Businesses faced a choice: absorb costs and lose profits, or raise prices and lose customers. Layoffs replaced the promised hiring boom. Construction projects stalled, electronics firms lost ground to foreign rivals. Workers the tariff was meant to protect now faced job cuts. Supporters of America First felt the sting of unintended consequences. The business community grew anxious, balance sheets weakened. The reality disrupting cross-border trade was far from simple. The economic pain was immediate and widespread. The chill wind of the copper war was blowing south and the damage was just beginning. The trade war's ripple effects hit far beyond copper. U.S. construction costs soared, homes, offices, infrastructure all got pricier. Home builders and families felt the squeeze as copper components drove up prices. Canada's counter-tariffs slammed American whiskey, cheese, and oranges. Kentucky distilleries lost sales, laying off workers. Wisconsin cheese piled up unsold. Florida orange growers watched their exports dry up. Appliance makers faced higher costs, losing ground to foreign competitors. Canadian consumers paid more for U.S. goods, turning to alternatives. The trade war was no longer abstract. It was killing sales, raising costs, and sowing uncertainty. Both sides felt the pain, from factory floors to breakfast tables. Economists slammed the copper tariff as blunt and self-defeating. "It's surgery with a sledgehammer," one expert said, hurting more than it helped. Global supply chains, they argued, can't be rewired overnight. Higher costs meant inflation and lost competitiveness. Workers and business owners felt betrayed. A Michigan factory worker lost his job as production moved to Mexico to dodge tariffs. Wisconsin dairy farmers, cut off from Canadian markets, faced warehouses full of unsold cheese. "We're paying the price for a fight we didn't start," one farmer said. Even some in the U.S. copper industry suffered. Small processors needed Canadian raw materials they couldn't source domestically. "The tariff was supposed to help, but it's based on a misunderstanding of our business," said an Ohio plant owner. Costs soared, customers fled, and competitiveness dropped. The policy meant to save jobs was destroying them. The human cost was undeniable. The backlash was growing louder. Negative headlines piled up. Layoffs, lost sales, angry voters. Trump expected a manufacturing boom, but got a backlash. Polls showed support for the trade war slipping, even among his base. Frustrated, he lashed out at advisors and accused Canada of cheating. Social media rants couldn't change the facts. The plan was failing. Lawmakers from affected states flooded the White House with complaints. Kentucky bourbon, Wisconsin cheese, constituents were furious. The Canadian strategy was working, creating a political firestorm. Trump was trapped back down and look weak, or double down and hurt his own supporters. The tariff became a political liability. The backfire was spectacular, and the president was left searching for someone to blame. The copper war left a lasting scar on U.S.-Canada relations. Generations of trust and partnership were shaken. Canada saw the national security justification as a deep betrayal. Diplomatic ties froze. Friendly talks turned formal and tense. Canadians began seeking new trade partners, wary of U.S. unpredictability. Public opinion soured on both sides. Resentment and suspicion replaced kinship. Even after tariffs were lifted, the memory lingered. Businesses and governments grew cautious, fearing future shocks. The conflict proved trade policy can reshape alliances and public sentiment. The frostbite of the copper war would take years to heal. The U.S.-Canada copper war became a cautionary tale in global economics. Trade wars have no easy winners. Collateral damage is inevitable. Tariffs on raw materials hurt domestic industries as much as foreign ones. The Trump administration misjudged Canada's resolve and leverage. The conflict showed even small nations can hit back effectively. Real-world impacts, lost jobs, higher prices, cut through political rhetoric. The lesson trade policy decisions have profound human consequences. Future leaders must weigh expert advice and diplomatic realities before acting. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. In a connected world, cooperation, not conflict, is the path to prosperity.